What if one simple movement, something you once did without a second thought, could reveal exactly how long and how well you'll live from here on out? Most people overlook it, but in my 30 years working with seniors, I've seen this one ability predict independence, vitality, and even longevity more accurately than most lab tests. I'm Dr. Carson, a senior health specialist with 3 decades of experience. And today, I'll show you 8 silent signals your body is sending that could shape your future. But it's the last one, rarely discussed, that could change everything. They brought in Mr. Jackson on a Monday morning, 81 years old. Slight tremor in his hands, mild confusion. Nothing catastrophic. But when I asked him to stand up from the chair, without using his hands, he hesitated. He pushed off the armrests, slowly, carefully, like someone climbing out of deep water. And right there, without any blood tests or scans, I saw something no chart could capture. He was slipping. I've been a physician for over 3 decades. I've worked with patients in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. Some come in tired, resigned. Others walk in, steady and confident, with eyes still sharp and a handshake that surprises you. And every single time, I ask myself the same question. Why do some people age with power, while others fade quietly before they should? It's not luck. It's not perfect genetics. And it's definitely not about expensive treatments or exotic supplements. It's about patterns. Over the years, I've started to notice something. The people who live long and live well share certain traits. Not rare diseases, not miraculous recoveries, but physical and mental signs so subtle, most people overlook them until it's too late. They can get off the floor without help. They can balance on one foot without wobbling. They remember what you told them last week. They sleep soundly and wake up alert. They move like their bodies still believe in them. These signs are like silent check-ins from your body, quietly revealing how well you're aging. And here's the truth that no one tells you. You can have a perfect cholesterol level, normal blood pressure, and still be aging faster than your birth certificate says. If your body's abilities are slowly disappearing, right under your nose. Most people don't notice the moment it starts to go. It's not dramatic. You just start avoiding stairs. You use your hands a little more to stand up. You forget a name here and there. You feel more tired, but chalk it up to just getting older. But I need you to hear me on this. That slow fade isn't inevitable. It's not just age. It's a warning. And the earlier you spot it, the more power you have to reverse it. In today's video, I want to walk you through 8 of the most important signs I've ever observed in my healthiest older patients. Signs that your body is aging better than average. Some of these might shock you, some might comfort you, but all of them will give you insight that blood tests and doctors rarely provide. You might be wondering, why should you listen to me? Because these aren't theories. These are lived experiences. I've followed hundreds of people for decades, and the ones who stayed independent into their 90s and beyond. They could do these 8 things. Not perfectly, not all the time, but enough to keep their autonomy, their sharpness, and their sense of self. And you can too. If you're 65 to 80 right now, this video could change the way you think about your own aging. Because you might be in far better shape than you realize. Or you might see the first warning signs that no one has ever pointed out. Until now. And if you're younger than that, even better. You'll learn what to protect, what to prioritize, what to fight to keep. Because once these abilities are gone, getting them back takes real work. But catching them early? That's where the magic lies. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to equip you. These 8 signs are like a secret blueprint. If you still have them, you're already exceptional. And if you're losing them, we'll talk about how to bring them back. But promise me one thing. Don't skip the last one. It's the most overlooked and the most powerful. Before we begin, if this message resonates with you, if you believe in living not just longer, but stronger, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. It's one small click, but it helps us continue bringing you videos like this, grounded in experience, designed for real people, and built to make you feel seen. Now, I want to hear from you. Here's a quick question to reflect on. Which one feels truer to you right now? A. I feel like I'm holding steady, maybe even improving in some ways. B. I've noticed small declines in strength, balance, or focus that worry me. Type your answer below. Just A or B. There's no wrong response. But your comment might help someone else feel less alone, and it helps me know what topics to cover next, based on what you're really going through. Or if you've ever had a moment, big or small, when you suddenly realized your body wasn't as steady, strong, or sharp as before. Drop a 1 in the comments. Let's start this conversation. You ready? Let's begin. When I see an older adult walk into my clinic without assistance, there's always one test I quietly give them before they even know it's happening. I watch them sit down. Then I ask them to stand. It's a simple request. Go ahead and stand up for me. And the way they do it tells me more than their last 5 lab tests combined. Some push off the armrests, some lean forward and use momentum. Others press their palms against their knees like they're lifting a heavy box. But then, there are the rare ones who rise smoothly, without using their hands at all. Those are the ones who make me pause. You see, being able to stand up from a seated position without your hands might seem like nothing. It might even feel natural if you're still doing it now. But to me, that ability is pure gold, because it tells me your lower body muscles are still firing the way they should. It tells me your brain is still coordinating your balance, that your core is engaged, and most importantly, that you still have the strength to support your independence. Let me tell you about Harold. He was 77 when we met. Used to be a high school football coach. Tall, sturdy, the kind of man you picture giving locker room pep talks even in his sleep. But one day, he noticed something subtle. When he got up from his favorite recliner, he grunted. Just a little. Then, a week later, he noticed he was using the armrest more often. By the time he came to me, he had adjusted without realizing, sitting down and getting up like someone twice his age. When I asked him to stand without using his hands, he tried, and couldn't. It hit him harder than he expected. I didn't think I was that far gone, he said quietly. But he wasn't gone. He was just waking up to something millions of people miss until it's too late. I gave him 3 exercises: sit to stands from a dining chair, heel raises at the kitchen counter, and slow wall squats. He did them daily, religiously. 3 months later, he walked back into my office, didn't wait for me to ask, and stood up from the chair like it was nothing. He smiled. I got my legs back, Doc. That moment? That was medicine. Because here's what people don't realize. When your legs go, your life shrinks. You start avoiding stairs. You stop taking long walks. You hesitate before outings. And eventually, you stop altogether. But if your legs are strong, you move through the world with confidence. Which brings me to walking. We all do it. But the way you walk matters. I always say this: the pace you walk at after 65 is a stronger predictor of lifespan than your blood pressure. Sounds dramatic, but it's true. Why? Because brisk walking isn't just about fitness. It reflects your heart's ability to pump blood efficiently, your lungs' ability to oxygenate, and your muscles' endurance to keep moving under load. I had a patient named William, 74, who used to be an avid hiker. After retiring, he walked every morning, but over time, he noticed something. His loop around the neighborhood started taking longer. At first, he thought he was just being cautious. Then one day, he caught his reflection in a storefront window. Slow, shoulders slightly hunched, breathing heavier than expected. When he came to see me, I didn't tell him to join a gym. I just said, "Time yourself. Every day. Walk the same route and see how fast you're moving." It lit something in him. Within 6 weeks, he shaved 2 minutes off his walk. He was breathing easier, sleeping better, feeling younger. All without lifting a single dumbbell. Now, balance. That quiet skill you never think about until it starts to leave. Can you stand on one foot for 10 seconds without reaching for support? Most people scoff at the idea until they try it. One of my favorite stories is about Frank, 76, retired carpenter. Big hands, great sense of humor. Came in for a routine checkup. I asked him to stand on one foot. He laughed, tried, and barely made it past 4 seconds before tipping. "That's not fair," he said, chuckling. "You caught me off guard." I told him balance isn't about practice. It's about systems. Your eyes, your inner ear, your nerves, your muscles. If even one of them is off, you'll feel it first in your balance. He took it seriously, started brushing his teeth while balancing on one leg. 2 minutes a day, twice a day. 3 weeks later, he held 10 seconds no problem. But the real difference? He stopped fearing little stumbles. "I feel planted now," he told me. That's balance. It's not about perfection. It's about trust in your own body. And then there's the floor test. I've seen grown men hesitate at the idea of getting down to the floor. Not because they can't, but because they don't know if they'll make it back up. Joseph, 78, came in after a scare. His grandson had spilled Legos on the carpet. Joseph bent down to help clean up, but getting up took everything he had. "I had to crawl to the couch," he confessed, ashamed. I told him, "This isn't about pride. It's about mobility." We started slow, practicing kneeling by the sofa, then pushing up with just one hand. Within a month, he was able to get down and up without thinking twice, and he could play on the floor with his grandkids, without that nagging fear of getting stuck. Mobility isn't about youth. It's about freedom. These 4 signs, standing without hands, walking briskly, balancing on one foot, and getting off the floor, they're not fancy. They're not impressive in the way we usually define fitness, but they are foundational. They are the daily rituals of people who live not just long, but well. You might be doing all of them today without thinking. That's good. Keep going. But if even one of them is slipping, now is the time to reclaim it. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Because once you notice you've lost something, strength, speed, confidence, it's already been fading in silence for months, maybe years. But the body is forgiving. It responds fast, and every improvement you make adds more years, and better ones, to your life. In the next section, we'll dive deeper, because independence isn't just about movement. It's also about what you can carry, how you handle daily tasks, and what your body can still lift without hesitation. And that brings us to the next 2 signs, ones you probably haven't thought about, but absolutely need to. Keep watching. What comes next may surprise you. One of the most revealing moments in an older adult's life isn't a hospital visit or a diagnosis. It's when the groceries feel heavier. Not just the full bags, but the small things. A gallon of milk, a loaded laundry basket, a suitcase by the door. You've lifted them hundreds of times, but suddenly, you pause. You shift the weight. You ask someone for help. I remember when Richard, 75, told me this. I knew something was wrong when I brought the bags in one at a time. I used to carry 3 in each hand. Now, I was winded after just 2. He said it with embarrassment, as if he had failed some silent test of manhood. But I didn't see failure. I saw a sign and a chance to rebuild. We started with resistance bands, light weights, and hand-squeezing drills with a rubber ball. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even hard. But it was consistent. 3 weeks later, he came in grinning. I carried them all in one trip this time, the pride in his voice. That mattered more than the weight itself. What people don't realize is that carrying something isn't just about your arms. It's your shoulders, your back, your core, your lungs. It's your brain communicating stability to your limbs. And when one part weakens, the whole system starts to hesitate. That hesitation becomes avoidance. That avoidance becomes dependence. I've seen this too many times. Grip strength, in particular, is a startlingly accurate predictor of longevity. In some clinical studies, it's been more predictive than cholesterol levels or blood pressure. That sounds dramatic, until you realize that grip reflects not just muscular capacity, but neurological health, circulation, and inflammation control. If your hands are strong, chances are, so is your heart. I often tell my patients, if you want to test your independence, don't look at your treadmill speed. Look at how easily you carry what you once took for granted. And then there are stairs. If you want a single real-life test that sums up your physical age, take the stairs. Climb a full flight without stopping, without leaning, without holding the rail. How do you feel at the top? The stairs have no bias. They don't care about your age, income, or past. They just ask, can your body rise? George, 73, was one of those men who had slowly made a quiet decision. Avoid stairs when possible. Why stress myself out? He told me. Elevators are easier. That mindset is incredibly common. But the longer you avoid the climb, the faster your body loses the ability to make it. When he finally confronted this, not out of motivation, but necessity, he was stunned. Just 12 steps up to his friend's second floor, and he was breathless, dizzy, and pale. That scared him. When we broke it down, the issue wasn't just stamina. It was muscle loss, reduced lung capacity, and a lack of confidence in his body's rhythm. Stairs demand more than we realize: leg strength to push, lung power to oxygenate, coordination to stay stable, and heart health to keep the rhythm. If even one of those falters, stairs feel like mountains. We didn't go big. We went small and daily. 1 flight a day. No rush, 1 step at a time. 2 weeks in, he could make it without stopping. A month later, he was seeking stairs on purpose. I like the burn now, he laughed. Feels like I'm proving something. And in a way, he was. He was proving to himself and his body that the decline wasn't final. It was reversible. That's what I want you to hear in this. Carrying groceries and climbing stairs might sound like chores, but they're really signals. When your body can still do these things without effort, it's telling you, I still work, I'm still here. But if those movements have become taxing, don't ignore the whisper. Don't normalize the struggle. Because independence doesn't vanish in a single moment. It fades with every bag you hand off, with every staircase you skip, with every little effort you once made instinctively, and now avoid quietly. But here's the hope. Every effort you make to reclaim those tasks becomes a brick in the foundation of your autonomy. Strength can be rebuilt. Breath can be trained. Confidence can return. And you don't need to be a bodybuilder or a marathoner to do it. You just need to keep moving, lifting, climbing, even if it's slow, even if it's a little shaky at first. The body is an adaptive miracle. It listens to what you demand from it. So start small. Carry your groceries in one trip again, even if it's just 2 light bags. Walk up the stairs slowly, but without stopping. These aren't tests, they're declarations. You are not fragile, you are still capable. And every time you choose movement over avoidance, you tell your body, I'm not done yet. In the next part, I'll show you something most people forget to track. But it may be the strongest sign of all that your body and mind are still thriving. It has nothing to do with muscles, but everything to do with the quality of your life. Let's talk about memory, and why remembering your neighbor's name might mean more than your last medical checkup. There's a certain kind of silence I've come to recognize in my office. It happens when someone forgets a name they know they should remember. A friend's, a neighbor's, even their own child's. They smile through it, make a joke, brush it off. But I see their eyes searching, not just for the word, but for reassurance. Is this normal? They ask. Or is this the beginning? It's one of the hardest questions to answer. Not because I don't know, but because memory is personal. It's sacred. It's not just about function. It's about identity. I remember Paul. He was 79, sharp as a tack, with a dry sense of humor and a bookshelf that would make a professor jealous. When he came in for his yearly checkup, he passed every physical test with ease. Strong gait, good reflexes, blood pressure solid. But halfway through our conversation, I asked him what book he'd read last week. He paused. I just finished it, he said, eyebrows furrowing. Something about Europe? We both laughed it off, but I knew it rattled him. So we talked. I asked about his routines, and what he told me painted a picture I've seen too many times. Fewer social gatherings, less reading, more isolation, more television. It wasn't memory loss in the medical sense. It was cognitive withdrawal, a brain slowly settling into a quieter gear. You see, most people think of memory as something that just fades. But in truth, your brain is a living system. It needs engagement, challenge, stimulus. Not Sudoku and crosswords alone, but real conversations, curiosity, learning. When those go, memory doesn't just fade, it starts to atrophy. So I gave Paul a prescription. Not pills, just habits. I told him to join one weekly class, anything that made him think. Art, music, language, it didn't matter. To call a friend every 2 days. To read 20 minutes every morning. Then try to recall what he read later that night. 6 weeks later, he walked into my office with that same dry smile and said, the book was called Prague Spring. Brilliant. I even remembered the author. We both knew what that meant. His mind wasn't slipping. It was just dormant. And here's the part most people don't realize. Memory is tied to physical health more deeply than we think. Poor sleep, for example, doesn't just leave you groggy. It compromises your brain's ability to file away what you experienced the day before. That's why my 8th sign of strong aging might be the most overlooked. Waking up rested. Now, I don't mean getting a full 8 hours, perfectly, every night. Sleep after 60 is different. But if you fall asleep within 30 minutes, stay mostly asleep, and wake up feeling alert and ready, that is a powerful sign. Because sleep is when your body repairs cells, balances hormones, and resets inflammation. More importantly, it's when your brain clears out waste, literally rinsing out toxins through a system called the glymphatic system. If that function breaks down, it may open the door to memory loss, confusion, and over time, even cognitive decline. One of my most heartbreaking cases was Roger, 74. He came in exhausted, not physically. He just looked drained, said he couldn't focus. Conversations slipped through his fingers, but nothing was wrong in his blood work, scans, or even mental tests. Until I asked about his nights. He had been waking up 5 or 6 times per night, trouble falling asleep, racing thoughts. Sometimes he'd nap during the day just to catch up. I didn't treat him with Ambien. I treated his sleep as the vital sign it truly is. We adjusted his schedule. No screens after 8:30, consistent bedtime, darker room, cooler air. He started journaling before sleep, just enough to get the thoughts out of his head and onto the page. He began doing slow breathing exercises just 3 minutes before bed. 3 weeks in, he came back with a light in his eyes I hadn't seen before. "I didn't know how foggy I was until it lifted," he said. "This is the point I want to leave you with. Remembering details, feeling mentally sharp, and waking up rested. These are not luxuries. They are signs that your body and brain are still working in harmony. When people lose memory, they often grieve the big things, birthdays, names, old stories. But it starts smaller. You forget what you had for dinner. You ask a question twice. You wake up still tired. You blame it on age. But aging doesn't mean vanishing. It means adapting. You have more power than you think. Read something challenging. Have a long talk with someone who makes you think. Move your body in new ways. Sleep in a room made for recovery. Do it not because you're fighting aging, but because you're honoring your life while it's still fully yours to live. The strongest people I know aren't the ones who run marathons in their 70s. They're the ones who still remember their favorite songs, who still wake up excited for the day, who still notice the way sunlight hits their front porch and think, "What a gift it is to be here." In the final part of this series, I want to help you tie it all together. These signs, from strength to balance, from breath to memory, form a kind of blueprint for living longer, better, and with deeper joy. And as you'll see, even if some of these abilities are slipping, the path back is clearer than you might believe. Let's finish this together. There's a moment I return to often. It wasn't in a hospital or a clinic, but in the quiet kitchen of one of my oldest patients, Evelyn. She was 86, sharp-witted, and still made her own bread from scratch every Sunday. As I sat across from her, sipping tea, she looked me in the eye and said something that stayed with me for years. "You know, Dr. Carson," she said, "it's not that I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid of disappearing before I go." That one sentence stopped me cold. Because I've heard many fears in my line of work, fear of disease, of pain, of hospitals. But the deepest, most unspoken fear I see again and again is that gradual fading of self, the quiet slipping away of strength, sharpness, movement, confidence, the vanishing of the little things, the things that make life feel full. That's why I've spent this entire conversation walking you through these 8 signs. Because they are more than physical checkboxes. They are proof of life. They are signals from your body, whispering, "I'm still here. I still work." When you can rise from a chair without using your hands, walk at a pace that challenges your lungs, balance on one foot without fear, get up from the floor, carry your groceries, climb the stairs, remember your friend's name, and wake up rested. You are not disappearing. You are fully, defiantly alive. And if you're not quite there, if some of those signs feel distant or even impossible, then this is where your story begins, not ends. Because the greatest misunderstanding in modern aging is that decline is final, that once you slip, the only direction is further down. But I've seen the opposite. I've seen people at 70 get stronger than they were at 60. I've seen minds sharpen, legs steady, hearts recover, spirits rise. It doesn't take hours in the gym. It doesn't take perfect discipline. It takes noticing. It takes care. It takes the quiet decision to stop waiting and start moving. Let me be clear. Your value does not depend on what you can physically do, but your freedom, your autonomy, often does. And there's no dignity more sacred in aging than the ability to move through your life without fear. If you've been watching this series and nodding along, recognizing these signs in yourself, I want to say something simple. You're doing better than you may believe. You are not average. You are rare. You are living proof that strength and age can coexist. But if you're watching this with a knot in your stomach, realizing that some of these abilities have already started to slip, I want to speak to you directly. You are not broken. You are not past repair. You are simply at a fork in the road. Your body is still listening. Your mind is still ready. Your heart still wants to carry you forward, but you must meet it halfway. Start small. 1 chair stand a day. A walk to the mailbox. A balance check while brushing your teeth. A journal by your bed. A conversation that lasts longer than 5 minutes. These are the stitches that mend a body back together. Not with force, but with intention. And don't do it alone. Aging well is not a solitary act. It's communal. It's shared. It's done in kitchens, in parks, on phone calls, in quiet moments when someone reminds you that you still matter, that your story is not over. If you've made it to this point, all the way to the end, then you've already done something powerful. You've chosen to be awake to your own life. And that choice changes everything. So, I ask you now, what will you do tomorrow that your future self will thank you for? Will you take the stairs? Will you go for that walk? Will you lift that grocery bag with pride, not hesitation? Will you remember a friend's name and call them just to say hello? Or maybe, will you simply close your eyes tonight, knowing that your best days might not be behind you, but still ahead? If this series spoke to you, even in a small way, I invite you to leave a comment below. Share which sign resonated with you most. Tell me what you're going to try this week, or just write one word: ready. Because sometimes that's all it takes. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. Not because I need numbers, but because I want to keep showing up for you, with stories that remind you how much is still possible. Aging is not about surrendering. It's about reclaiming. Let's reclaim it together. If there's one truth that echoes through everything I've shared today, it's this: aging is not the end of growth. It's a new chapter where strength, clarity, and vitality are still possible, if you choose to nurture them. We've looked at 8 subtle yet powerful signs that your body and mind may be aging better than you think. From the strength in your legs to the sharpness in your memory, from the pace of your steps to the quality of your sleep. These signals are not just medical trivia. They are messages, quiet affirmations that your health, independence, and dignity are still within reach. But here's what matters most. Whether you currently possess all 8 signs, only a few, or perhaps just one, your journey is not defined by a checklist. It's defined by your willingness to listen to your body and to respond with care and intention. Too often, we're taught to expect decline as a natural part of aging, that it's normal to slow down, to forget, to withdraw. But I've seen too many people defy those expectations, not with magic, but with small, daily decisions to move, to connect, to keep learning, and to rest deeply. What we do consistently matters more than what we do perfectly. The act of paying attention to how we rise from a chair, how we breathe on the stairs, how rested we feel in the morning, is itself a radical form of self-respect. And with that awareness comes power. The power to preserve what's working, the power to restore what's slipping, and the power to shape the years ahead with confidence, not fear. So whether you're watching this at 65 or 85, I hope you feel more seen, more understood, and more capable than you did before. The real message is this: you are not fragile. You are not fading. You are still becoming, and your body is waiting to meet you in that becoming if you're willing to show up. Now let me ask you something simple, yet profound. Which of the 8 signs resonated with you the most? And why? Take a moment to share your answer in the comments. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this video gave you clarity, comfort, or even just a sense of possibility, please consider subscribing to the channel. That one small action tells us you value this kind of content and want more of it. And if you feel moved to go a step further, you can also support this channel through a small donation. Every bit helps us continue creating content that informs, uplifts, and empowers, especially for those who need it most. You're not alone in this. We're in this together, learning, growing, and aging with strength. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.